All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Kachalis, and I'm the Director of Strategic Insights here at Bridge Tower Media. And I'm going to be your host for today's webinar, focusing on selling sustainability and performance. We have a lot of great insights to cover on the webinar, and I'm very excited to introduce our speakers for today. But before we get started, there's just a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to go over. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please submit them in the questions section in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. At the end of the webinar, we're going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to answer your questions. If at any point you're having technical problems during the webinar, we ask you to please try logging out, logging back in, or send a question in the chat box where a member of our technical team can answer your question. And then finally, if you're registered for today's webinar and happen to miss a segment of today's presentation, there will be a recording link that will be emailed to all registered attendees. All right, now that that's covered, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Our first speaker is Leanne Flack. Leanne is the marketing manager for Milliken's specialty interiors business. In her role, she leads both strategic marketing and marketing communication efforts. She's instrumental in identifying all business opportunities for growth across all relevant markets. Fluent in French and English, she is a Six Sigma Black Belt and earned her Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Economics from Walford College. Our next two speakers are Holly and Chris Kogan. Holly is the VP of Merchandising for Four Seasons Furniture, a family-owned company specializing in slipcover upholstery. In her role, she merchandises for Four Seasons line, is involved in all marketing materials, and also showrooms set up for High Point marketing markets. Holly grew up in the furniture world under the guidance of her father, Ken Hill. She received her Bachelor's of Science in Marketing from UNC Wilmington, where she also played volleyball for the Seahawks. Holly is married to Chris Kogan, who is involved in the family business. Chris is the VP of Sales for Four Seasons Furniture. He oversees the Four Seasons sales force, is involved in the day-to-day operation and product development. Chris has been involved in the furniture world for almost 30 years. He has experience as an independent sales representative as well as management. Chris is an avid golfer and enjoys time on the golf course and spending time with his family. All right, we're now ready to start. And Leanne, I'm going to be opening up the webinar for you to begin your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Mark. All right, let's get this presentation moving. Let's see. Having some technical difficulties. Let's see. Now it's not working. As soon as I can get this moving, we will get started. Not sure. It's like stuck. Having some technical difficulties right now. Let's see. Okay. Let me see if I can get out of this. Well, we may have to, let's see if we can redo this.
It's frozen?
It's frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer, Mark.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Everyone, bear with us right now as we work through this. Yeah, Leanne, maybe you can email us on the deck, and we can maybe host it from our side.
That might be a possibility. I've just got to get out of this screen right now completely. Yeah, let me try that. Let's just power cord. All right. Let's do that.
Everyone, just bear with us here as we get through this technical difficulty, and we will begin our webinar shortly. Thank you.
Okay, cancel. And let's see if this is working now. Can you see that? Can you see that, Mark? Or am I off?
Right now I see bios and intros.
You only see bios and intros still?
Correct.
Okay, so you can't see my screen then. Okay.
No, not right now.
That's interesting. Okay, well, we'll just have to. Okay, let's see if I can get out of that. Go back up. I wonder if something happened with the connection. No, it's not in this. You still can't see my screen, right?
Yeah, it's still saying bios and intros. Maybe maybe exit out of the presentation and try to restart it, possibly.
I'm going to do. Okay. And I'll just go ahead and email it to you too, just to be on the safe side, Mark, in case this is not working.
You could email that to Jessica. That'd be great.
And send it to Jessica too?
Yeah, that would be Jessica that would host it.
Okay. All right. That way we'll maybe get it going. Sure. Okay, I'm sending it to you. I just sent it to you now. And
Okay.
so I'm going to try pulling this back up. I think I'm going to reboot like you suggested. Just restart it.
Right. Sometimes. All right, everyone, if you're attending it, joining in, we are just working through a couple of technical problems real quick, and we will have this webinar up and running shortly. Thanks for your patience.
It just froze.
Anytime when the Milliken
Mm-hmm.
we're not stopped. Okay, once we receive it on our end, we will be able to host it on our side, so that should probably mitigate any of the technical problems that you're having on your side. So.
Okay. I rebooted my computer to see, because it was just basically
Okay.
not anything.
Okay.
Okay. That was weird.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't receive the email yet for the deck. Is it possibly rebooted before it was sent?
I am. I'm rebooted. I'm rebooting. Okay. I've rebooted, and so now I am going to try to join back into the webinar.
Okay.
Like on my screen, at least.
Okay.
So I apologize for the inconvenience here.
No worries. Yep.
I just got to get back to email. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, just to make sure it goes. I think as it has an attachment, it takes longer. Let me get
Okay.
Okay. I'm almost there. I've got to join back into the webinar.
Okay.
And we will see if this works.
Great. Everyone, thank you for your patience. We are getting this resolved and should have this up and running shortly. Thanks.
Hopefully. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Right now, I'm seeing just the, no, I'm seeing the selling sustainability and performance.
Oh, you're still, okay, now it says show my screen.
Yep, okay. I
Okay.
have your agenda here. Yep.
Yeah, we're a success. Thank you. Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay, well, nothing like starting a webinar with a bunch of technical problems, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your patience. Leanne, I will pass it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you guys for joining us today. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover. The first thing is, or talk about performance and sustainability and what that means. We'll talk a little bit more about consumer demand for sustainability and sustainable options when it comes to performance, communicating what matters to consumers, and then of course we'll wrap this up with our manufacturer retailer perspective with Holly and Chris. It froze again. It's just not working today. Okay, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's see if I can get this to Mark. I'm not really sure what's working. In the past few times we've done work great, but it's not cooperating today. Like it's freezing up in the in PowerPoint, like in the slideshow.
Yeah. Well, so it looks like we could try posting on our side if it's maybe something that's freezing up on your side.
Yeah, do you want to try that? And then we'll just try to...
Yeah, we will... okay.
Do you have the presentation? Did it come through?
Yes, we'll be the one that will we'll do that side. Let me just coordinate that with our admin team here.
Okay. Well,
she has not received the deck yet, so let me just make sure she has it.
It seems like when I get out of that showing mode, it's working fine, like my screen's working fine, but when I'm in the presentation mode and I'm sharing my screen, it freezes. I mean, we can try it.
Yeah, let's see if our admin team could just pull up on our side and just run through the slides that way, so it can minimize that. So it'll just be a couple minutes for Jessica just to pull it up. Looks like we have something right now coming through.
Okay, and can you see this my screen now? Defining performance.
Right now, yes, I can see defining performance. Yes.
Yeah. So what happens is, like, when I went to this slide, it I can't advance. Like, it won't let me. Like, I have to stop showing. Yeah. Like, I'll stop showing, and then I get out of presentation mode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll have to let you do it.
Okay. Yeah, that would be something that we'll post here.
No, it's not getting out of. Well, maybe we'll get to this. Well, let's see. Here we go. We can still follow along. Oh, we've got these printouts. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Another option maybe if you're not in presentation mode, maybe you can just go through the slides non-presentation mode.
Yeah, I can try. Yeah, I can totally try that. Let me.
Yeah, that might be a better alternative.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's try that.
Okay.
Okay. Can you see that? Because I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. We will get to this eventually. So I want to talk a little bit about performance, and that's so we're gonna. It's a real hot topic these days. Actually, performance fabrics are outselling basic fabrics, and but there are some issues and questions that are creating confusion, and that's what we really want to to talk about today is some of that market confusion. Some of the questions that you see up on the slide here are some of the ones that we get. The first major issue is related to not having any standards for performance. Most requirements or guidelines are not really requirements. And then there's a lot of branded fabrics that are pitching their own unique selling propositions, along with many unbranded solutions that are doing the same thing. So there's just a lot of options out there, which also adds to this confusion. Another issue is that performance can really mean different things to different people. So it's really important to understand what the consumer needs, where they're going to place their sofa, what they're going to do with this piece in their house. And so having a standard list of questions for consumers to consider is really important. And a lot of things, we were talking about this earlier actually, about fabrics perceived as being, these performance fabrics being perceived as bulletproof. You do have to clean these fabrics. They won't hold up to just anything. The idea that these fabrics are, that you never have to clean them is just not true. You have to, the idea behind performance fabrics is that they make them easier for you to clean, but normal maintenance is essential, and so it's easy. Really, ideally, you want to clean up the stains as they happen, and hopefully these performance fabrics will make that job a lot easier versus not having performance. So when you look at things at a high level, and you're looking at, like, we take indoor performance fabrics, there is this assumption that people are paying more for these fabrics, and so they expect the fabrics to last longer. So we've created a simple definition for performance fabrics, that they're durable, they resist stains, and they're easy to clean. And we also want to consider the environment. And so we use an industry test to show how the performance fabrics are better. So for durability, you look at what they call a double rub or Weizenbeek test that looks at a back and forth action on the fabric. These fabrics, in our line, we like to have them go at least 15,000. Go up to 30 really is where we really try to target, because we know that consumers want these fabrics to last longer. The other part of this durability equation is pilling, and this really looks at more of a circular action, and so that's why having abrasion and pilling to get testing on your fabrics is important, so you can understand both the back and forth abrasion issues as well as the circular issues that you have with day-to-day use on the furniture. And then resisting stains is really the next thing. And, a lot of people might not ask, hey, I want repellency on my fabrics, but it is a really good way to show consumers that, hey, this is going to repel the stains, making them very much easier to clean, which is the third thing. And these two things really go hand in hand. The test that we use for resisting stains is called a water spray test, where you basically are looking at pouring water down on the fabric and then rating that fabric to see how much of that water beads up on the fabric, how much passes through, and how much water spotting is remaining. And it's a really good test. What we shoot for is you want to have fabric to be resistant to be at least 70 out of 100. We like to shoot for 90 with our fabrics so that you can really have that good repellency, which enables customers to be able to just blot stains up with a paper towel. And then the last item here is being easy to clean. And so you want fabrics that are able to be spot cleaned, which is normal household cleaners. And, in the case of, especially with slip covers, you need them to be washable. So that's another important aspect of performance fabrics. And then this next, for us, we also look at sustainability. It's gaining importance. And so you really need to look for not only sustainable sourcing and how the fabric is designed, whether it's got recycled content from plastic bottles or natural fibers like cotton that will biodegrade. Those are all things you should look for in the fabric. And you also, what's not in the fabric is very important. You want to have fabrics that don't have any chemicals of concern, that don't have fluorinated compounds, formaldehyde free. Those all lead into, this last item here, which is Green Guard certification, which is a third-party certification that looks at indoor air quality. And this particular certification is through UL. We have all of our fabrics that meet that. In fact, our fabrics are gold, and it really just looks at industry standards for a low emission. So you don't want to have anything off-gassing from your fabrics, especially since we spend so much time indoors. And we have to talk about greenwashing. Greenwashing occurs when you have a company or organization that's spending more time marketing the aspects of green versus then really practicing and having good business practices. So ideally you want to look at a product and the company that's providing the product to make sure the messaging is consistent. Can the company deliver this environmentally friendly product? Is it believable? Those are questions that you really should be looking for when it comes to greenwashing. And when you move into, let's talk a little bit about demand for sustainable performance options. They've come a long way. A lot of these options now deliver style, which is of utmost importance to consumers. Now that you can get fabrics like our briefs by Milliken, you don't have to sacrifice style, comfort, or even performance to get these sustainable options. You do need to know about them, though, and that's important, is just getting that message out and educating the market that these options exist. And it's also important to know that we pulled some stats, recent survey information from our friends at Sustainable Furnishings Council, and I'd like to share a few of those stats with you today. 98% of consumers are concerned about environmental issues in furnishings. 90% of consumers rank chemicals and materials used as important or very important. 83% of consumers consider indoor air quality one of the greatest concerns, especially among women. And 84% of consumers purchase environmentally safe products, including home-related products. Consumers want these, sustainable options, and they want quality materials. They're very interested in purchasing home textiles with a third-party certification that are made environmentally friendly facilities. So, when surveyed, consumers are preferring terms like environmentally safe, sustainable, eco-friendly. These are all things that rated high when consumers were polled. They're also familiar with terms like Energy Star, which you definitely see when you purchase appliances these days. Recycled content, reclaimed wood, fair trade. These are all things that resonate with consumers today, and we feel like the market is definitely changing. I need to turn that off. So, the other thing that we're seeing consumers do is doing a lot of research online. It's very common. They're doing a lot of selecting of narrowing down, I'll say, of their choices. They still have to be able to go in the stores a lot of times to be able to see and touch the fabrics, though, because that's a key component of the purchase. But a lot of that pre-work can be done on websites, on store websites and things like that. They'll go ahead and get that and then be able to make the final decision in the store. And so that's something that we're seeing more and more of. And, even some people buying more and more furniture online even. So if you think about what, we've kind of shown some information here about sustainable options and that consumers are looking for them. And so now we have to talk a little bit about how to deliver this message to customers. And that's really through creating, content, meaningful content, whether it be point of sale materials on the floor, that's displays, being able to transfer that message easily, because it's, as fabric manufacturers, we're selling to furniture manufacturers who then are selling to retailers, and then that message has to translate all the way down to a consumer who's actually buying the furniture. So that message definitely has to be transferable at the end of the day. Hang tags are things that we can do to help alert customers that this is a performance fabric, and even live demos and partnering with online retailers. All of these things are helpful in and really being able to get the message down to the end user. Even social media, which is important these days, and a very useful tool. So I'm going to turn it over to Holly and Chris now to give you a few, let them talk a little bit from their perspective. And Holly, I think you might be up on supplier best practices.
I'm going to talk about what suppliers, what their best practices, what they can do, and how to help at the retail level. I think suppliers that have marketing and point of materials that cut through the clutter and explain performance characteristics is key. For most retailers, effective communication about performance fabrics begins with signage, like hang tags, that indicate which fabrics in a showroom on the floor are performance. Also, to go along with identifying signage, I think it's important to provide information about the performance features, along with cleaning instructions and warranties. For retailers that promote multiple brands of performance fabrics, I think you need to have brand-specific information to give to the consumers. Having salespeople educated plays an essential role in training, being able to explain the fabric benefits and show the performance. Demonstrations help a lot with hands-on training is key. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of different manufacturers and products is also helpful. Also, merchandising consulting, like sending specialists to work with retailers to design showrooms is very effective. The more educated that the retail force is on sustainable fabrics, performance fabrics, the better. So the more they know, the better they're off. I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
And I'll kind of go over some things here real quick. The first slide will be understanding customers' demands. I think it's important to understand that customers that go into retail stores these days, you need to understand their needs and also their wants. Need to know what the retailers as consumers are both looking for as far as furniture style and fabric options go. Many customers these days specifically ask for performance fabrics, but they're often asking for one or two performance features like, say, cleanability or durability. It's critical to have partners who can translate complicated marketing speak into terms that are more relatable for consumers. As you know, it's a very crowded field out there right now as far as performance fabrics go. There's a lot of competitors in that field, and there needs to be some differentiation between the different performance fabrics and the different people that are out there doing it. Customers need to be aware of each characteristic of those fabrics. Some of the most valuable selling tools that we find from a manufacturer's standpoint, hands-on demonstrations are great. You know, when we talk to our salespeople, we always try and educate them on how to do a hands-on demonstration in front of the sales force at the retail level. You know, hands-on is a great demonstration. Any kind of information about the fabric, whether it be sales sheets, brochures, of course, websites a critical part today. Anytime you can give a customer direct access to a website that has all the information that they need is just going to reinforce what you're trying to convey on the retail sales floor. Any kind of hang tags are also helpful. You know, in our showroom at Market, we tag all of our furniture with the applicable tags for what manufacturer the fabric's coming with. So when our customers come in the showroom, they immediately know that this is a breed fabric by Milliken, and here's the characteristics of that fabric. Of course, you know, sales training on the retail sales floor, as we've kind of touched on, is critical. You know, making sure the retail salespeople understand what all the fabrics are and what the characteristics and benefits of all those fabrics would be.
All right. Well, thanks, Chris and Holly, for offering your perspective. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. What drove your decision to work with Milliken?
Well, we value our partnership with Milliken because they have evidence to back up their commitment to sustainability. Milliken stands behind the sustainable performance solutions and continues to introduce new products and innovations that prove fabrics can be both durable and sustainable. They are, you know, willing to listen and work with us, and they also came to our showroom and educated our sales force and gave those demonstrations. And so, and they had the, the research to back it up. So that's always very important to align yourself with a fabric person who's willing to do that.
Okay, thanks, Holly. What advice would you give your fellow manufacturers and retailers on the need to stock and market sustainable performance options?
If a fabric mill or supplier ever offers you a quote unquote one size fits all fabric finish that can go on any fabric, that's probably a good sign of false advertising. So we've learned that various fabrics react differently to a performance finish. With a one size fits all claim, they aren't testing the final product, so you really don't know what the end result will be as to how it will wear, how it will wash, etc.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you. Well, Mark, I think at this point we want to conclude our presentation for today, but we definitely open the floor up to questions. So if anyone has any questions for me or for Holly and Chris, feel free to let us know.
Yes, great. Sounds good. We are now going to open up the webinar for questions, everyone. So if you have not already submitted your questions, you can now do so by inputting them in the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. And we'll try to get to all your questions, but if we run out of time, you will receive a response via email. So it looks like one of the first questions we have, one of the ones we have here is, what have you found is most useful and most difficult in educating customers about sustainable fabric options?
I'd say that what's useful probably, I think, is being able to have branding in showrooms or on the floor so that customers know what the fabric is and what it does, at least from our perspective. But then I think that it's also a struggle with the amount of branded fabrics that are out there too. It's also a struggle to get that down onto the retail floor. So that's probably the biggest struggle. I don't know, what would y'all say?
I agree there. I mean, like kind of we spoke to earlier, with all the competitors out there, how do you separate that sustainable from the other folks out there that aren't having the sustainable story? And I think it's done with, with hang tags, with retail sales education. I think that's where it has to go.
Okay.
Okay, great. It looks like that's the main questions right now we have. So if anyone else have any other questions, please, feel free to email to the contact information you see. Leanne, Holly, Chris, I'd love to thank you for your time today and the insights you provided today in the webinar.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Is there?
Yep. And thank you, everyone else, for joining us today.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.